Good morning, everyone. I'm Shotade Olusegun. In today's video, I want us to dissect the anatomy of black holes. Yes, black holes, that is the situation, the warping of time and energy. Basically, people say the warping of space-time. But to me, I say warping of time and energy. I've said it before that uh, time cannot relativize space. Time can only relativize energy. And so we're going to actually, dissect this to know, the kind of warping we have inside a black hole, such that light cannot even travel beyond it. So light cannot even escape the black holes. So now the anatomy, we're going to use time energy wave model to actually illustrate the black hole. Well, if you have been watching my video, you'll be so conversant with this time energy wave model. And so we have time wave traveling inversely to energy wave. And as a result of that, we have the expansion that gives room to what we can call space. So now the trajectory from the evolutionary singularity to future singularity gives what is known as, it gives rise to equilateral triangle. And so we have the past phase, we have the future phase, and then the present phase. So now the line, the equilateral triangle actually stands for constancy of light. Then we have constancy of gravity right up here. Here we have constancy of light. And then the present phase is the trajectory of time. And it is instant because, time travels when you annihilate the zeros that we have after applying formula of everything, which is this, the t, the m equal to capital Um plus 4m. So by annihilating the zero down to the quantum realm, we have the instant speed of time. But now the thing is, the instancy of time is a kind of measured instancy, and it is for that reason that we can actually have the continuum of the past through the present and the future. So now what I want you to notice that here we have arbitrary mass worth, and that actually causes suspension of time to energy, and for that reason time is unable to actually travel through the zero. And it is because of that that we have this event right there. And because of the lagging in time, we have the peregrination of time in form of the past, the present, and the future. Then another thing we need to take note is that we have arbitrary mass worth here at quantum realm, and there we have suspension. So now the suspension we have at quantum realm is so tiny, very very tiny, which is 0.000000001423. What is that telling us? That is actually telling us that there is no zero energy state. So we have non-zero energy state at quantum level. But there is something so profound, which is this mass worth that we have right down here. And this mass worth is the real mass worth of electron. Now I want to see how I can actually interpret this, so that we'll be able to, in such a way that we'll be able to understand. I want to see how I can interpret it intuitively. So the way I want to interpret this is that here in this line that we have here, we have electromagnetic field, And I told you in one of my previous videos that electromagnetic field decays mass worth. And so if we now say that the mass worth of electron is being decayed such that we have this tiny mass worth, then the counterparts, or let me rather say that the antimatter of the electron, which is the positron, if that is what we have right here, which is outside the constraint of time energy wave, if that is what we have here, we know that Dirac said that there is a Dirac say where you can have the positron, and because electron is a fermion particle, you cannot actually have electron right here and then have electron right here. But Dirac called it sea of electrons. So before we can have a hole right here such that we will have, positron that the electron here can then come down to interact with, which is to annihilate it, there must be a kind of radiation. If we have a huge radiation, that will create a hole here, and so it is then that electron can move from here into this space. So it is because of that that we have this suspension. Now before anything can break this suspension, then there is going to be a kind of radiation, and so we're going to have hole here. Electron will connect to this, it will annihilate, and that is synonymous to what is called a virtual particle. And so once we have it in form of virtual particle, that is the vacuum state. When you have non-zero energy states in vacuum, then you have the popping in and popping out of virtual particles. So this could be related, this could be cited as that, but the thing is, once you have this mass worth, be it electron or positron, whatever it is, and you have this tiny space, the moment that this mass worth gets into this space, it will be unstable, then it will decay, and that will propel momentum towards the singularity of the future. So basically, this present phase that we have can be likened to event horizon. Then event horizon, we know event horizon is so warped that when you have an object traveling towards the event horizon, that object to observer will remain static forever, and it is because there is spontaneous symmetry breaking, because time travels from the classical suspension down to quantum suspension. Then it breaks through this quantum suspension to connect to this positron or electron, whatever it is, to inject it back into the system such that there will be further momentum into the future. So now the issue is that the observer will not be able to see this the subsequent reality, because the observer is being cut off from the subsequent reality as a result of that spontaneous symmetry breaking. So at this present phase, we have brief disconnection, and even by having this information right here, we know that we have all the information that we need for us to actually explain what is obtainable in black hole. So now here we have arbitrary suspension, and here we have the real mass worth, real classical mass worth. So let me quickly explain this. The moment you put this mass worth of electron in this formula of everything, which is FOE, in the formula of everything, once you put the mass worth of electron in the place of this M and this M, that formula will generate classical mass worth, which is 2,277,250,000 kilograms. And so by having this value, if you put that output back into that formula, because this formula is a kind of formula that fits back on itself, so you can use an input that generates output, then you can use that generated output as input to generate further output. So that is what we're going to do by putting this classical mass word inside the formula. And then once you put the classical mass word, because the trajectory of time has to be from the classical realm down to quantum realm, which is from the past into the future. So this present phase that we have is just an instant combination of the past and the future. So now, so the trajectory must be from the classical realm down to quantum realm. So now, once you supply the classical mass word, you are going to have wave magnitude, which is 5.7 times 10 raised power 48, as an interval to the weak conveying force, which is this 4m. So this 4m, what I'm trying to say is that the suspension is going to be like this: 5.7, then we're going to have 0 0 up to the 32nd position, where we now have the mass worth of electron, but not in point. It will be 109, and then we have more zeros like that. So that is the suspension we're going to have. And then for us to now have this instant trajectory, we need to manually annihilate the suspended zeros, all of the suspended zeros. So by annihilating it in standard form, then we're going to have 9.109 times 10 raised power minus 32 instead of 31 kilogram. So now, why is it that we have such dynamics in the subsequent formation of mass? This is the actual mass word, which is 9.109 times 10 raised power minus 31 kilogram. But the generated one from classical realm to quantum realm, because we are traversing this quantum realm second time, so we need to break the suspension, and by breaking the suspension there will be radiation, and so that will lead to decay. So the dynamics of the mass worth of electron that we have is as a result of radiation, is as a result of decay, and that is actually telling us the further occurrence into the black hole. And we know the moment we are entering into the black hole, then there is going to be continuous decaying of mass. So that is that. So now, once we know what we're likely to have in the black hole, but before I dive deep into this present phase, which is the event horizon, I just want to quickly discuss this Schwarzschild metric. This Schwarzschild metric is what this particular person used to actually solve the what is it called, general relativity of Albert Einstein. So he was able to come up with this, but basically I'm not going to go deep into the metric. I just want to tell us what we later discover in the metric. In the metric, we discover that this particular portion leads to singularity, and this is the central. This particular portion is actually pointing to the central point, or central spot of the mass. That is the mass that actually warps the space-time as we have it. So we have this area, because by the as this small r will actually get to 0, and once you divide this by 0, it will lead to infinity or singularity. let me just say singularity. So now, this singularity, the one we have here, is quite understandable because there is going to be, in the black hole, we're going to have central singularity, which is, the point where the singularity that light cannot escape from. But there is another issue. This particular area in brackets too leads to singularity, and this is a special radius of Schwarzschild, which is away from the actual central mass. Yes, away from, this is more or less like the boundary to the mass, you understand, away from the central spot of the mass. So more or less like boundary, and there we have singularity as well. Okay, so now how can we for us to use this metric to explain this black hole that we have here? What this metric is telling us is that we're going to have two singularities, and then there is going to be one for central, which is going to serve as central singularity, and there is going to be another one that will serve as boundary singularity. Now the thing is this: here, out of these two suspensions, or let me say these two suspensions, we have two suspensions here. So we can say we're going to have singularity up here, and then we're going to have singularity up here. But there is something so profound in this time energy wave model. The singularity that we have at quantum level is quite different from the one we have at the classical level. Well, we shouldn't forget that this whole area is the classical, because formula of everything deals with unification of quantum mechanics to classical mechanics. So now this whole area is the classical realm, while this region is the quantum realm. So don't get confused when I say classical quantum like that. So now the singularity that we have here is different from the one that we have at classical level. The singularity we have at classical level is a kind of singularity that is not breaking through the suspension. So we can call it arbitrary singularity. So the singularity that we have here, we can see that time, because the flow of time is from the past down to the future, and that means that it's from the classical down to the quantum. Why did I say from classical to quantum? The reason is because at the classical level you have ordered state, then at quantum level you have unordered state. So the trajectory of time is actually from the ordered to unordered state. So it's from low entropy to high entropy. So now we have the trajectory of time coming down to quantum realm, then it breaks the suspension that we have there to connect to this, be it positron or electron, and then inject it back into the system to have momentum, or to propel momentum into the singularity of the black hole. So now what this is telling us is simple. At quantum level we have the real singularity. I mean the kind of singularity that light cannot escape from. And that is why you could see that time, when energy of light is being termed to be zero. Yeah, we know basically we can't have zero energy state. We have a non-zero energy state, and that is why the suspension is not right at the zero state. You can see that we have some value 0.00001423. So it is not at the exact zero state. So now, by having time to break this suspension down to where we have the positron, it simply means that time speed is faster than the speed of light. So the constancy of light stops right here at the suspension, and that means that the the light cannot actually travel, cannot escape, cannot travel further to connect to this positron, and that is what we're going to have in the black hole. Because by the time what we have here at the event horizon is more or less like the information of what is obtainable in the black hole. So we can actually, use the event horizon to explain, the structure of the black hole. So now we have suspension of real classical mass worth right here, and we have arbitrary up here. So but now see that we have the real mass worth of electron outside the system, and we have arbitrary right here. And that is why the decaying nature of black holes, is real. You understand? It's real. And we have even confirmed that from the formula of everything. So basically that is the anatomy of black holes. So we know already what is going to happen in the black hole, but I just want to use the fields in time energy wave model to support what I've said here, and after that I will call it a day. So if you come to this particular diagram, well, I call this time energy wave field interaction. The kind of fields that we have inside this diagram is gravitational field to electromagnetic field. And now here we have one suspension. This is the entitle of the universe. We have inflationary suspension. And here inside the black hole we have neutron stars suspension. Now this is the evolutionary singularity, and this is the black hole singularity. In this spot, this small spot, we have electromagnetic field, only electromagnetic field. And the moment that electromagnetic field is able to break free from the suspension, then we have introduction of gravitational field, and that gravitational field keep on expanding relative to decreasing electromagnetic field, and that is why we have more gravitational field at the suspension of quantum level. And so after that suspension is being broken by time trajectory to get the real mass worth of electron or positron and inject it back into the system. Now see how we are now having increased electromagnetic field. Now electromagnetic field starts increasing relative to gravitational field, and then it gets to a point where electromagnetic field is so huge. Yeah, you understand? So here now from this you can see that we have entropy from low entropy to high entropy. So now, but inside the suspension we only have gravitational field, and that is why you can see that outside the system, outside the suspension, we have mass worth, and the only thing that could converge mass is gravitational field. And then here you can see that we have conservation law here. As this electromagnetic field electromagnetic field is decaying mass worth, then the value of the mass worth is being converted to mass worth right at the classical level by convergence. You understand? So that is the whole system, and that is actually the anatomy of black holes. So black holes, well, I think black hole is much needed in the system of the universe. And from what I've said, you can see that in the universe we have expansion of the universe, then we have contraction of the universe. So that is the whole system of the universe. Don't get it twisted. Okay, so now I believe this video is quite informative. If you like the video for real, don't hesitate to like by clicking the like button. Then make sure you share this video with your friends who want this to travel as fast, as huge, as quick as possible, so that people will have the knowledge of this novel discovery, and so we can advance in science and technology as necessary. Then another thing I want you to do is that I want you to subscribe to this channel so that you can get notification of the subsequent videos that we upload. Here we're going to use novel discovery to explain reality of the universe. So make sure you subscribe to this channel. Then since it's a novel discovery, formula of everything, it was actually invented by me, by God's grace, you understand, and it has been published. So I'm going to share the link to the publication in the description below. You can click on that and explore this. So that is that. God bless you. I remain my humble self, Shegun.